Assalamu alaikum, hello and welcome to my show Connecting with Saima Parwaz. I hope all of you are doing great and waiting to see my another guest. Before I introduce you to my new guest, he's actually not new, you guys met him previously. I'm gonna tell you what we're going to discuss today. Our today's topic, first thing we're gonna discuss the power, what is power? Another thing we're gonna discuss the real estate most important questions currently I have been asked from my clients. So welcome to my show.
Thank
Ayoun.
you so much for having me, Saima.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
How was your day?
It was good. Long but nice. Looking forward to another day tomorrow.
Yes. Yeah. So what are we going to discuss?
Well, to my understanding, I think today we're going to discuss different powers that are vested in different professions, different people. I think we're going to touch base on the real estate market, certain things to look out for, the kind of frauds that are being committed, and how we can resolve those issues. And along with that, we're going to incorporate the real estate market of how it can affect family law. Because I'm a lawyer, so I'm here to discuss all the issues surrounding these different practices of law.
Good. So we're going to have fun.
Absolutely. I'm ready.
You ready? Okay. So what is power? Power is the capacity of an individual to influence the actions, beliefs, or behavior of others. Having a power feels good. And what do you think?
So, in my opinion, to be honest, power is something that, is not granted to everyone. There's only a selective few people that, work hard in their life, or they've achieved something in life that gives them that power in return. It could be a power that's given to a doctor. It could be a power that's given to a lawyer. It could be a power given to even like a, commercial construction worker. So, but the point that I'm trying to make is that, when you get that power, that comes with responsibility. Hard work, responsibility, thinking, making sure that power does not affect people negatively, which is the most important. And that's why you see nowadays in politics and the worldwide social fabric that you see, there's a constant struggle for power, whether it's between prime ministers, whether it's between couples, whether it's between families. So power is something that you have to be very vigilant about. You have to make sure that you don't exceed your authority. You don't exceed the powers vested in that scope.
So people are using their authorities badly, right?
Absolutely, and that's what causes your society to crumble when these authorities, these powers are not exercised in the way they're supposed to. That is when you start seeing fault lines in our system.
So Ayoun, what do you say about the market, the forecast for the market? Is it going to get better in 2024?
This is a very tough question at this time. You find two schools of thought. There's one opinion in the market that eventually everything has to rebound, and the survival of the Canadian real estate market and economy as a whole is dependent on this market. And then you have a second set of opinion that's saying that given the economical situation, given the numbers, it does not seem like a very bright next 2-3 years. I would like to say somewhere in the middle. This will be dependent on the decisions that our politicians make, the fiscal policy that our politicians come up with to run this country. And I think primarily it will be all dependent on the interest rate, like we all know. Interest rate is something that will decide the next coming couple of years. If you ask me now, right now, the market is slow, rightfully so, because the interest rate has gone up. People are not able to afford, the kind of properties they could just even as early as a year ago.
Even they cannot afford their basic needs.
Right, and there was a very common practice for people to buy real estate, thinking that they would buy 2-3 pre-constructions. and then eventually put them on rent, and the rent could cover the mortgage, and life will be all happy, and then in a few years' time they will increase in value, and we're going to be able to sell and do whatever we want. But unfortunately, not only has the mortgage rate gone up, but the value has come down as well. These are real facts. I'm not normally, when you see like a show that's being done by realty agencies, they try to be optimistic, which is good, and I'm going to touch base on that as well. But the realistic approach to see the market right now is the fact that it's idle, it's slow. People are only selling and buying stuff that they ultimately just want because they don't have any other option. But that sense of investment's not there, that sense of in fact, there's resentment in the market because people are not able to achieve the objectives that they had in mind. But having said that, I think the market will rebound. I think our politicians, our community, we understand that real estate is an area of practice or an area of industry that needs to thrive for everything else to thrive.
Of course.
That's how the pyramid is in our country, that if that survives, then everything else survives. So I think in the near coming future, 2023 is a write-off when it comes to easing of your lending, your purchases. But I think I see a very bright 2024 summer.
I hope
maybe
so.
Not spring, but summer. Yeah, we're going to see a rebound because I believe by that time there will be a drop, maybe a couple, maybe more, drop in interest rate.
Because people are really cranky, they are not in good.
I know a lot of people that have that investment ready, the people that have the money to sort of, invest into property and other areas, but they're just very hesitant because there's a very high level of uncertainty in the market. But I think that positive approach, being, positive about the outcome, fixing our fiscal policies, hopefully we'll get some good direction from our provincial and federal governments. I think we can rebound and pick ourselves as a community.
Of course.
Yeah.
Thanks. All right, I have very interesting question, Ayoun. Since many people, they are not qualifying for the first mortgage through the bank, right? So they go into the second mortgages and private mortgages. Is there any set amount of interest rate, like they cannot go more than that, like at 10%?
That's a very good question. I haven't seen any limits being practiced, to be honest. I believe at this point in time, anything excessive would be anything in excess of 15%. I'm not familiar if there is a legal limit to this, but 15% and more is considered to be very high. I mean, 15 itself is very high, but anything more than that is considered excessive. So,
but is this legal? Like it's supposed to?
Yeah, it is legal.
Legal.
Yeah, I've seen people charging 12%, 13%.
But they can't ask like 20% or 25%.
They can, because you have to understand the nature of these transactions. They're private. So a lot of times, if a person's giving a 20%, if you report it to the commissioner, obviously, if it's checked ethically, that's not the correct interest rate. However, that here's the thing: these are private deals. So this is also for our consumers, for people viewing this show, that if you see anything in excess of that number, you should be aware of the fact that this is not normal. But sometimes the problem is that people don't have an option. You have a closing set up for next month. You know that a lender's not going to approve you. You're unfortunately stuck with a private lender, and even private lenders costing you as much as 15%, 12%, 13%. And since it's done being privately, you don't question the system, you don't question the limits, but people are doing it in desperation.
Because people are stuck, right?
People are
they
stuck.
Have no options.
Exactly. For me, even 10% is very high, but people are doing it because unfortunately they don't have an option left. So my suggestion to them would be that when they're going through, this is very important for our viewers to know as well, when people come to us, there are so many times people come to us to get just the mortgage commitment reviewed. What that means is that people can come to our office, and as lawyers, we can review that commitment for them and tell them, what could be a legal consequence of one of the clauses in that commitment. Because a lot of times people have a tendency to go to, these mortgage brokers and just quickly sign whatever's given to them, because they're so desperate at that time that they don't think it through, and they'll just...
also the private mortgage, that they don't give you time.
Absolutely not.
And they don't send you paperwork.
Everything is just crumbled into the last 2-3 days, and they're just signing. I've seen it. I've first-hand experience. People sign it for like e-signature, and they'll quickly sign this and quickly sign that.
They don't even get time to read.
They don't even get time to see what the terms are.
And many people, they're not educated like
they're not
towards
educated,
the mortgage. Right?
Absolutely. So my advice to all these people that are in this situation is give yourself more time. Reach out to a legal professional. You can come to our office. We would sit down with you, review your documents, make sure that you understand what you're signing. Fine, eventually you have to sign it, but at least you should know what you're signing for, right? Because tomorrow, if there's a problem with the mortgage, it goes into default, you miss a payment, what are the consequences? Does it go directly to a power of sale? Does it go into collections? Do they initiate court proceedings against you? There's a million things we can talk about when we're reviewing these documents. So it's extremely important that anybody who's into private lending, B lending, that they review these commitments with their lawyers, who eventually will be the lawyers that will be closing that transaction. So it's always good to be informed.
So this is also another very interesting question.
Okay.
One of my clients just recently, he asked me this. One of his house was under private mortgage.
Okay.
And the lender died.
Okay.
Yeah. So in this scenario, what should he do?
Okay. So I believe there's a twofold answer to this. I think the first thing that needs to be done on the borrower's behalf is that if they know that the commitment has come to an end and it's in that renewal period, and for a couple of months nobody has contacted them, I believe it is the borrower's responsibility to make sure that they reach out, if not obviously the deceased, but at least the next of kin. This person who mortgaged this loan to the borrower must have given a contact information or an office address or something. So I believe it is the borrower's responsibility to make sure that his concern that the mortgage is in the renewal phase needs to be addressed. It is possible, and the second fold to this question, the answer to this question is that the deceased, now this is from the lender's behalf, the lender needs to make sure that there is a next of kin who's actually looking after the estate of this next of kin. This becomes more of an estate question, because if a person's deceased and he was the only one in the operations department, unless you have like a team and there's a team working with you, they can reach out to their clients. But if this one person is just individually, privately lending out to people and now he's passed, well then the first thing the people around him need to do is figure out who the next of kin is, who the estate trustee will be. And based on that information, you need to get a hold of all the people that he's lent out money to and reach out to them and make sure that they're up to date with their commitments. I also want to advise borrowers in this situation that they should ensure that they are communicating with the lender or their next of kin immediately, because waiting 3-4 months will not, you cannot escape from that payment. So let's just say the lender contacts you after 6 months. He's not going to say, because the person passed away and it took 6 months for the company to figure out what to do, therefore the 6 payments are forgiven. They're eventually going to prorate that and say, hey, you still owe us that much. Plus, in fact, if you want to renew or not renew or going to pay out, all of that stuff. Again, in that situation, I highly advise that the borrower reach out to a lawyer immediately and provide the lawyer the information on how to contact at least, obviously not the deceased, but the deceased company, or some sort of phone number or relative or a lawyer that they previously dealt with. So the borrower's lawyer can then establish communication with the other party and make sure that, our client's position is not jeopardized as a borrower, because you may think that waiting will, have the payments forgiven. It doesn't work that way. Even if it ends up in court, the court will ask the borrower if what they tried to do to mitigate those payments. Like, what did you do? Did you ever reach out to them? So you're going to have to prove, even in the court of law, what you did. So waiting on it will not help. I believe I advise to contact, the lender and their party and their company immediately to get it resolved.
Because sometimes the mortgage broker, they don't provide their information.
Yeah, absolutely. So sometimes it's not as easy as saying, hey, can you give us the information? Sometimes, these borrowers are going to be lost. And that's another thing. When you're signing up for mortgages, make sure you have the contact number, make sure you know who this private lender is, their address, their company address, all of this information. So, God forbid, if you cannot get a hold of them, at least you'll have proof that you always save the proof that you tried to contact this person, whether it's emails, phone calls, right? Keep a track of that so tomorrow nobody can question your ability to pay during those months. You can always tell them that, it was in a renewal period and the person had deceased and nobody was attending our phone calls. So you'll have proof, so that way you won't have to pay for any damages if it ends up in court.
All right.
Yeah.
Hi friends, I'm going for a short break. I'll see you soon.
Ayoun and Sabia Lawyers is a full-service law firm. We provide legal services in real estate, immigration, and family law. Our firm offers prompt service to clients and a range of appointment options, online, teleconference, or in person. Our spotless reputation has landed us with awards. We seek to understand each one of our clients with compassion, efficiency, and full knowledge. This is our way of doing business. We are one call away, 905-232-2793.
Hi guys, welcome back. I'm here with Ayoun. How are you, Ayoun?
I'm good, doing good so far. I'm really enjoying this conversation.
That's really great. All right, so this is also another interesting question. People ask me a lot. What are the 3 real estate frauds happening in
Three
these?
वैसे तो बहुत हो रहे हैं, but I think अगर आप मुझसे top 3 पूछें तो the first one would be mortgage fraud.
Okay.
Even though this is not technically a real estate fraud, but it affects your real estate transaction. I think the number 1 most common fraud being done in Canada is mortgage fraud. And the reason why I'm saying that is heavily connected to real estate is because when you're part of a mortgage fraud and you end up, not getting approved, or you end up getting, you end up not closing your transaction on time. What that does is that you not only have disqualified for the mortgage, but now you have sellers coming after you, or purchasers in that scenario. You have sellers coming after the purchasers over not closing on time. And that's a violation of your agreement of purchase and sale. You're breaching breaching the contract itself, and you can end up in court, and your deposit can be forfeited as well. So the day when you tell them that you cannot close on the closing day, and the seller is not wanting to extend the closing, you unfortunately lose your deposit along with a potential litigation against you from the sellers. So be very careful of who you're dealing with. Make sure that if you're going to a mortgage broker, you, at least at the bare minimum, there's a word of mouth that you've heard about this person, because if he's served the community, then a lot of people can vouch for him, that even though this person's a mortgage broker and he's private, something that you can do because we've dealt with him before. Try not to experiment too much. Try not to go to people, especially that sugarcoat conversations. If you're in a situation that is close to impossible getting a mortgage, and a broker is telling you, what, if you come to me, I'll get it done. Well, that's a red flag for you right there, because if you have a problem, the mortgage broker should at least, at the minimum level, should be advising you of potential disqualification of your mortgage because of the situation that you're in. So make sure you're vigilant. Make sure you, think it through. You make sure you check the person's reviews. Nowadays, Google review is a very good tool. A good business will always be registered with Google, because if it's a public company, And yeah, I believe that if you can minimize that mortgage fraud aspect of the things, you not only will, you get in trouble with our security agencies, but also with the fact that, you won't be ending up in court for unqualified broker trying to broker your mortgage. So be very careful of that. Secondly, I would think, I'm thinking now, identity theft. That's very common nowadays. There was a recent case I was reading, where the property was sold to somebody, and the sellers did not even know that the property was listed.
I have read it.
That was a very typical yet very complex case of identity fraud. So make sure when you have a property, you visit it often. Make sure if you have tenants in there, you have a good communication with these tenants. Nowadays I know it's very difficult if one of the parties, whether a tenant or a landlord, are hostile towards each other. But make sure you have good communication. Make sure you visit the property often. Make sure that if you see something odd about the house, you see, like let's just say you have a Ring camera or some security camera, make sure you monitor your house. People get going in and out because the people that sold that property without the sellers knowing, I'm sure they must have made visits to that property. So if you have a property that's not tenanted, make sure you visit that property often, and you have all these security elements in place to make sure that it's not being part of the identity theft. Minimize your online presence when it comes to sharing your IDs, disclosing personal information to people. Something like if you've lost your wallet or something, make sure you report it to the police. These are all things that you can do to minimize someone using your ID, especially your social insurance number. Always do credit checks on your credit report, because that is one way of identifying if somebody's misusing our identity or borrowing money or making credit cards. Sometimes it's not even about real estate. Sometimes identity theft exists everywhere, right? So you make sure you're careful of that. And thirdly, what I'm seeing nowadays that's more common is family law issues incorporated with real estate. And what I mean by that is there are families that are having, issues, a breakdown of marriage, separation, divorce. A lot of times, these couples have structured their estates in a way where only one spouse is on the property, and the other person's not. And in a lot of cases, the other spouse, whether male, female, that doesn't matter, they don't even know what their rights are living in a matrimonial home. So what we see nowadays often is that people sell the property while they're going through a separation process, even though they're supposed to disclose. Because the other spouse is not on title, they end up selling the property and keeping the money. So this is a common practice that we're seeing. So it is highly advised that if you are in a situation where your relationship is breaking down with your spouse and you know that you're heading for a separation or divorce, I highly advise these individuals to contact legal professionals, because they can immediately start to cover these rights. When people come to us and they tell us the family situation, the first thing we do is we figure out what their estate is, where they live, what their matrimonial rights are. So before this property goes up for sale, we can inform realtors, we can inform other parties, we can serve notices to other parties to inform them that we know our clients' rights and that they cannot go ahead and sell the property, and they would have to get our client's consent. So we sort of bring them down to that family law element that before you consider selling the property, settle your issues with your spouse. And so it is very important that when and this is for the viewers as well, if anybody that you know or someone that is going through that, it is very highly advised that they reach out to a lawyer immediately. Our firm is open to that. We take intake calls every day. Sometimes people retain us, sometimes people don't. But the point of the matter is that you have to spend time with a legal professional and get that help, seek that help. And believe it or not, when we talk to people and they realize what their actual rights are, they end up retaining us, because they know that this is a person with knowledge, with experience, and it's these lawyers that have dedicated their life to understanding what the law is, the provincial law and federal law, and therefore you need to invest that trust in a proper legal professional that can help you with that. So I think these are the three most common frauds that I'm witnessing nowadays when I'm approached with real estate matters and family matters.
So friends, probably you guys need to take care of your IDs properly, and also the mortgage fraud these are the most common frauds in real estate happening. So we have to be careful. All right, Ayoun, what is the HST rebate?
So HST rebate is basically an amount that you get a credit for when you purchase a property, and a brand new property. So HST, let me explain it from the start. HST tax is a type of tax that's applicable to brand new properties. So if you're buying a brand new property in Ontario, you are liable to pay HST. This does not apply to resale properties. So if you're buying a house that has already been sold by multiple people and you're buying it from a previous owner, then HST is not applicable. But if you're buying it brand new from a builder, then there's something that you pay, what's called the HST. When you're paying the HST, the government gives you an incentive. They say that if you were to either rent the property or live in the property for a certain amount of time, then both sets of government, provincial and federal, they give you a rebate, which is the HST rebate. Now, there are obviously conditions to qualify for that. At the bare minimum, it's you either living in the property or renting it out. But other than that, there's different levels of it. So the federal requirements and the provincial requirements differ. There are limitations on the purchase price. If your house is in excess of a certain amount, then that particular government will not give you an HST. I think the most liberal rebate that you get from the government is provincial most of the times. Typically it's around $24,000 on an average. I would say a $600,000 property or $700,000 property, the bare minimum you get is $24,000. So the idea is to incentivize people that are wanting to not vacate the property and keep the property empty. The idea is that it should be used for either tenanting, so either you're leasing it out or you're living in it yourself. That's what HST rebate is.
That means you should not sell the property right after.
Yeah, so the requirement is that you have to keep the property for a bare minimum of 1 year. You cannot sell. If you sell, then you are obligated to report to the CRA that you had claimed that HST rebate, and now that you sold the property, it's technically a disqualification because now you don't qualify for that HST rebate. So you have to inform CRA and return that money. But trust me, the kind of amount it is, 99% of the people will just keep the property for more than a year just because they don't want to give that $24,000 back. And that's also a service that my firm provides. Whether you're closing with us, whether you've closed with someone else, we offer the HST rebate service at a very good competitive price. So reach out to my office. You can Google us.
Can you say the name of your
Yes,
company?
so my firm's company's name is Ayoun and Sabia LLP Lawyers. We're a boutique style law firm based in Mississauga. Our number is 905-232-2793, 905-232-2793. And anybody who has a legal question or would like to speak to a lawyer, you guys are more than welcome to give us a call. We will surely attend to it and make sure that you're looked after.
Ayoun, this is second time you came to my show, right?
Yes, this is the second time, and very glad that I'm here. It was always an amazing time with you. It's a very nice, informative session.
It's guys, the good thing about Ayoun is whenever I ask him, I invite him, he's always here. He's very punctual, very friendly, very professional. Thank you, Ayoun.
Thank you so much.
All right, so we have discussed a lot today, right? Anything you want to add up? Like any suggestion for my show?
We were talking about power. We started off with power, and we ventured off into the different areas of practice and what are common issues, that people face. I would just add and say that, we all have these powers allotted to us by the Almighty. And, whether you're a lawyer, whether you're a dad, whether you're a mom, whether you're anyone.
You are a teacher,
There's
you are a professional.
professional, real estate agent, whoever in the world, right? Any profession you pick, any role that you pick, whether it's a family role or a social role. I think we just need to understand that we have to stay within the scope of our power. You know, we have to set limits for our power. Completely lawless system, or having no scope with your power, will eventually lead to destruction, will eventually lead to the demise of that power that empowers you. I believe you need to set discretion with it. You have to treat other people respectfully. This is a challenge that we face at work as well, because when people come, you don't want to sound like you're overpowering your client. I can sit here, use fancy words and, make a little lecture out of it, but you have to make sure that you come down to your client's level for them to understand in simple words what you're trying to say. So even though I have power to sound all, dominating in front of my client, but we have to really bring ourselves down and use our discretion to see, hey, this is the client's requirement. So I think it's very important as individuals to utilize this power in a way that not only makes you progressive, but helps other in return.
Use your power positively and do justice with your authorities. Thank you, Ayoun,
Thank you
and
so
hope
much
to
for
see
having
you in my another episode.
Absolutely, anytime. Thank you so much.
See you, everyone. Bye.
Bye.